Good day everyone. We are Group 6 and our topic for today is all about prosocial behavior. Our learning objective is to explain the meaning of social behavior, point out and discuss other considered forms of prosocial behaviors, discuss the nature of altruism, differentiate liking or attraction from loving, and contrast romantic love from companionate love. Meaning of prosocial behavior. Franzoy, 2006, defined prosocial behavior as a voluntary behavior that is considered out to benefit another person. This is applied to called altruism or helping behavior that has positive consequences for other people. People have personal experiences of helping and being helped by others. Prosocial actions may involve little value to others or may entail considerable time, money, personal risk. Many theorists explain why bystanders do and do not respond to an emergency. In this regard, Latane and Darlene, 1997, conceptualized prosocial behavior as the endpoint of a series of 5 steps. Altruism. The word altruism comes from French altruism, from altri, other people, derives from alter, other. Egoistic Helping, 1875, French founder of positivism, believed that individuals had a moral obligation to serve the interest of others or the greater good of humanity. Myers, 2005, defined altruism as a motive to increase another's welfare without conscious regard for oneself's interest. Lord, 1997, considered this prosocial behavior as any act that benefits another person but does not benefit the helper and often involves some personal cost to the helper. Altruistic versus egoistic helping. Egoistic Helping, cited in Franzoy, 2006, identified 2 forms of helping behavior based on motives such as altruistic and egoistic helping. Altruistic helping. It is a form of helping with which the ultimate goal of the helper is to increase another's welfare without expecting anything in return. It is identical to empathy altruism hypothesis that states when an individual experiences empathy towards someone in need, the individual will then be altruistically motivated to help the other person. That is, the individual will be primarily concerned about the person's welfare, not his or her own. Egoistic helping. It is a form of helping with which the ultimate goal of the helper is to increase his or her own welfare. This definition is consonant with psychological egoism hypothesis that states when an individual may very well spend his or her life benefiting, interesting others with no material gain to himself or herself. His or her most basic motive for doing so is always to further his or her own advantage. Bear in mind that while people can display altruistic behavior, they cannot have altruistic motivations. Why do people help? People help to benefit another or they help so that to achieve some personal gain. Because of innate characteristics, people may be predisposed to prosocial behavior. Social psychological dynamics. Evolutionary psychology or sociobiology. Helping evolves from evolutionary theory. It contends that the essence of life is gene survival, with which genes drives mankind in ways that maximize the chance of survival. Aronson, Wilson, and Ackert, 1997, maintains sociobiology as the application of evolutionary theory to social behavior. Based on sociobiological theory, prosocial behavior occurs in part because of kin selection. Kin selection is the idea that behaviors that help a genetic relative are favored by natural selection. As a whole, evolutionary psychology or sociobiology factors in helping emphasize 3 ways in which helping could become an innate, universal behavior tendency. kinships, selection, in which people protect their own genes by helping close relatives, reciprocal altruism, in which those who give also receive, and group selection, in which members of a social group help each other survive. Social exchange theory or cost-benefit theory. The theory that human interactions are guided by the social economics and are transactions that aim to maximize one's rewards or exceed the cost. People exchange not only material things and money, but also social things such as love, services, information, or status. They use minimax strategy that minimize cost and maximize rewards. This theory consideration can be used to predict one's behavior. Cost-benefit theory explains a person's decision. Reward of helping. Helping others to help oneself. People help others are because it is rewarding, but helping has its cost. Example, many people who helped Jews during the Holocaust, as Oscar Llander did, were killed or punished. Social norms prescribe how people should generally behave. The threat of social sanction if the norms are obeyed and the promise of rewards if one conforms are adaptive helping strategies. Pro-social norms are expectations to behave selflessly in bestowing benefits upon others. 3 social norms. Norm of reciprocity. It prescribes that people should be paid back for whatever they give us, helping those who help us. Explains the discomfort that people typically experience when they receive help but cannot give something in return. Norm of social responsibility. It prescribes that people should help when others are in need and dependent on us. It requires help givers to render assistance regardless of the recipient's worthiness and without an expectation of being rewarded. Norm of social justice. It stipulates that people should help only when they believe that others deserve their assistance. Underlying the social justice norm is a belief that the world is just a place, aptly called just world, belief with which it can affect their sympathy or condemnation of help seekers. Theories of altruism differentiated. Various theories such as social exchange, social norms, and evolutionary provided not only specific predictions but also a coherent scheme for summarizing the diverse observations. The theories give a broad perspective with which one can understand human altruism as shown below. When do people help? Social psychologists were curious and concerned about bystanders' lack of involvement during such events as the classic Kitty Genovese murder case, Myers 2005. Despite this obvious emergency, no one even called the police until she had already died from her wounds. Poor situational influences that enhance altruism as well as the characteristics of people who help may depend on the following. The unhelpful crowd or the bystander intervention model. The presence of other inhibits helping in an emergency, indicates why the 5 steps necessary for helping, such as noticing, interpreting, taking responsibility, deciding how to help, and providing help may not be taken. It explained that whether bystanders intervene in an emergency is a function of a 5-step decision-making process. Bystanders are less likely to offer direct aid when they do not feel competent to do so. Even when people want to help, they tend not to do so if they fear that behaving in a helpful fashion will make them look foolish. 5 steps to helping in an emergency. Notice that something is happening. Step 2. Interpret event as an emergency. Step 3. Take responsibility for providing help. Step 4. Decide how to help. Step 5. Provide help. The audience inhibition effect. People are inhibited from helping for fear that other bystanders will evaluate them negatively if they intervene and the situation is not an emergency. Because many emergency situations are not clearly defined, having some degree of ambiguity. People may realize that something unusual is happening, but they are not sure that it is an emergency. Time pressure. When people are in a hurry, they are less likely to notice or choose to help others in need. Time, place, people live. Residents of densely populated urban areas are less likely to provide spontaneous informal help to strangers than are residents of smaller or less densely populated communities. Diffusion of responsibility. The belief that the presence of other people in a situation make one less personally responsible for the events that occur in that situation. Role models and social norms. A helpful standard observing a helpful model increases helping. Social norms that promote helping are based on a sense of fairness or on standards about what is right. Cultural differences exist in how people interpret and apply social norms. Who is most likely to help? Personal influences are basis as to who is likely to help.
Personal influences. Altruistic personality. There is some evidence of relatively stable individual difference in helping tendency. Some personality traits are associated with helpful behavioral tendencies, but no set of traits appears to define altruistic personality. Number 2. Empathy and moral reasoning. Empathy involves taking the perspective of others. Moral reasoning involves adherence to moral standards independent of external social control and taking into account the needs of the other when making decisions about courses of action. Number 3. Parental and family influences. It can promote empathy and advance moral reasoning. The latter approach places the child's focus on the potential recipients of his or her helpful behavior, promoting perspective, taking empathy. And choose as major condition under which people are most likely to help. Number 1. Cause-reward model. A theory that helping or not helping is a function of emotional arousal and analysis of the cause of reward of helping. Its focus is on the social problem of non-intervention with which the bystander. Emotional arousal during the emergency and his/her assessment of his cause of helping and not helping. And good mood effect. Positive moods have a prosocial effect. Emotional factor as helping people in a good mood may help in order to maintain their positive mood or because they have more positive thoughts and expectations about help behavior, the personal needs and social activities in general. Negative state of real model. For those in a bad mood, helping others may be a way to lift their own spirit if the perceived benefits for helping or hide the costs are low. Whom do people help? Just saying, people are more likely to receive help as a regards perceived in the characteristic fit between giver and receive or gender consideration. Perceived characteristic of the person in need help similar others. It may consider attractiveness, similarity, and conductive to attractiveness a liking thus. Attractiveness, liking, conducting, helping by Mayors 2005. People are more willing to help when they attribute person need for assistance to uncontrollable causes rather than even other personal control. Attribution effect. action, or triflatory. It states when people attribute a personal needs for assistance to factors beyond the individual's control, they not hold the person responsibility or attribution. They feel sympathy, pity for the personal plight, affect their likely help action. The fit between giver and receiver or gender consideration, it claims men are generally more likely to help than women, men, and situation involves an element of danger and where there is an audience. Other ways which helping found giver and receiver. Similarity, helping those just like us. Similarity is conducive to attraction. Liking people are also biased toward those similar to them. Similarity is a psychological perceptual process that increases attraction, thus affect helping dissimilarity decrease attraction. Closeness is little help or our friend. People are more helpful toward those they know and care about than toward stranger, superficial acquaintances, people, and communal exchange. Relationship enhance closeness. Just word believe. It's a belief that world is a fair and equitable place, with people getting what they deserve in life. In just world, hard work and clean living will be rewarded, whereas laziness and sinful living will be punished. If we're good, will be rewarded.
Who receive helps? Receiving helps may have a positive experience, but sometimes it has drawback for the recipients. Thus, there are costs in providing help, and there can be costs in receiving it. Help that support versus help that threaten. Fisher and Nadler Trait to Self-Esteem model explains that receiving help is experienced as self-supportive when the recipients feel appreciated and cared for, but as self-threatening when the recipients feel inferior and overly dependent. Seeking help from others. Receiving supportive help encourages the recipient to seek assistance again when needed. People's help-seeking behavior is influenced by how they have reacted to past experiences of being helped. If the reaction was negative, however, the subsequent effort to obtain assistance will depend on the individual's perceived control over future events. How can helping be increased? Reinforcement approaches to helping suggest that the helping behavior is shaped through reward and punishment. Attraction. Attraction is the perceived characteristic of a person in need helping similar other. Attraction is also necessary for affiliation needs such as friendship, and yet people meet others who do not become friends. Affiliation need is to motivate to form connection and contract with others, resulting in the display of affiliative behavior, act that indicate that a person or an animal chooses to with others. Hong and Bohan 1998 define attraction as a power that makes a person feel positively about another. Underlying reason for interpersonal attraction. Number 1. Physical attractiveness. People physical attractiveness as an implicit personality theory. This assumption or naive belief system that person make about which personal traits and behaviors go together. It is a first matter of personal preference. Number 2. Proximity. The factor of living close by is known to play an important role in an early stage of forming a friendship. Physical proximity of one person to another is a potent factor which facilitates attraction. Number 3. Familiarity. As one becomes more familiar with a stimulus or even another person, one feels more comfortable with it and show more liking for it. Number 4. Reciprocity principle.
the law doing into others as they do to you. An attempt to gain compliance by first doing someone a favor or to mutual aggression or mutual attraction. And lastly, similarity. People tend to like others who have value and attitudes similar to them. When they meet new people, they talk with them and learn what they think and feel. This interaction enables people discovery if they are similar.
Liking and loving differentiated. Francois, Hogg, and Bond pointed out that liking has a different states from loving. Francois and Parental identified the situational states in liking and or attraction as powerful sources that trigger affiliation, need, and interpersonal attraction as enumerated. The first one is close proximity fosters liking. When residents were asked to name their 3 closest friends in their housing units, physical proximity was the most single important determinant of friendship choices. Egoistic explained this effect by stating that those who live closer to each other are better than those living farther away to spoil one's happiness and peace of mind. Second, familiarity breeds liking, the frequency of actual contact with individuals. Robert Hazones, where exposure hypothesis proposes that repeated exposure to something or someone is sufficient by itself to increase attraction. Third, affiliation desires increase with anxiety. High anxiety causes people to seek out others. Misery does indeed appear to love company. Perhaps others serve as a social distraction to anxious individuals, temporarily taking their minds off their anxiety. Fourth, evolutionary theory states that individuals are attracted to others on the basis of increasing reproductive success. Loving. Love can be strongly affected by the beliefs that are present in the culture. Beliefs can either be functional or dysfunctional. Dysfunctional beliefs include those emphasizing that love is blind, external, and beyond the control of the lovers. Liking can be accounted for in terms of reinforces. Love often seems to go its own way. There are graphs that you can see, and the triangle, the top is the passion and the bottom is commitment and intimacy. In graph, you can see the no love, infatuation, empty love, liking, fatuous love, romantic love, companionate love, consummate love. So we will go to consummate love. Stenberg refers as ultimate form of love involving passion, intimacy, and commitment. A model of love which commitment and intimacy are factors as crucial as passion to some experiences of love. Passion is strongly equivalent to sexual attraction. Intimacy refers to feeling of warmth, closeness, and sharing. Commitment is a person who resolves to maintain the relationship even in a moment of crisis. So we'll go to romantic love. Romantic love or passionate love is a state of instant absorption in other person involving psychological arousal. This love involves an intensely emotional state and a confusion of feelings associated with tenderness, sexuality, elation in pain, anxiety and relief, altruism and jealousy. Cultural expose plus psychological arousal plus appropriate love object is equals to romantic love. So we will tackle about the 3 factors of romantic love. The first one is cultural determinant. A prerequisite for falling in love is to have been raised in a culture that believes in the concept and instills to young people. The second one is appropriate love. An attractive member of the opposite sex of similar age through the majority of love patterns at any time do seem to follow belief about What type of partners are appropriate? Emotional arousal. Love that is felt when interacting with or even thinking about an appropriate love object. So John Lees proposed a 6 typology of love style. The first one is Eros, which is passionate, Ludus or the game playing, Storge, friendship, Pragma or pragmatic, combine Storge and Ludus element, Mania, possessive, compound of Eros and Ludus, Agape or altruistic, elements of Eros and Storge. Companionate love. It is caring and affection for another person, which usually arises from sharing time together. It exists between close friends and lovers. This love is governed by attachment systems, which the goal is establishing and maintaining a strong emotional bond between two people. Based on evolutionary theory, the sexual desires typical of sex-driven passionate love induces the sexual mating system, ensuring that a new generation is born.
And that's all our discussion. Thank you.